Hello, folks. Today I'm here to talk to you about something that's really been in the water recently. And I think we've referred it in the past, but we haven't really done a deep dive. But here we go. Today I'm going to talk to you about sovereign AI. It's been the headlines everywhere recently, and it's about time we start talking about it. So, first of all, what is it? Right? Okay, this is the long version. A nation's capability to develop, deploy, and govern AI systems independently using its own data, infra, talent within its own regulatory framework. In short, it's self reliance in the AI world. And honestly, there's no one size for this because every country has their own take on this. Let's start with Europe. France, of course, has Mistral AI, which is a competitive model maintaining strict privacy standards, very much along the lines of the way that Europe looks at AI as a whole. So it's comparable to GPT-4, but with privacy plus. Germany is focusing on building AI specifically for the manufacturing and industrial applications. Closer home in India, we have our government's India AI mission, which tries to have a comprehensive approach to the way that AI is developed in the country. Starting with making GPU clusters part of easily accessible infrastructure for the whole country, upskilling data platforms, and of course, the recent grant given to Servam, which is recently launched, is Servam M model, which tries to get contextual Indic language specific LLMs. Um, Most recently, of course, on the world stage, the entrant has been the folks in the Middle East. Earlier this month, Saudi Arabia launched Humane, which is their own hyperscaler. It aims to provide AI services, products, and infra. And what they're claiming is the world's most powerful Arabic language LLM. UAE, of course, has gone in a completely different conversation and has launched Stargate UAE, which is OpenAI's first country-specific deployment. Even this is OpenAI's new foray from company deployment to country deployment, and what that includes is a 1 gigawatt GPU cluster, and of course, most famously, ChatGPT Plus access for all UAE residents. Of course, this brings us to our friends in China. Um, Alibaba's Qwen 3 is performing competitively against GPT-4 on multiple benchmarks while being developed completely on non restricted hardware. We all know that that was the major hook, supposedly, in the China story of having restriction to the hardware that it gets access to. But since recent innovations, including their innovations in architecture, training optimizations, and memory compression technology, has been studied the world over of what they can do with supposedly far, far less. And of course, DeepSeek, the model that really shook up all of us. We've done a deep dive on it ourselves, so we'll possibly leave a link in the description. So I won't belabor the fact, but needless to say, DeepSeek was possibly the starting shot that started this entire thing. Okay, so, with all of that overview and world news report out of the way, let's get into why this is happening and, most importantly, why now. So, a quick view into why the need is felt into the sovereign AI movement at all. The first, of course, is localization. The need to have LLMs and AI tools that not only reflect, but are more importantly, most useful to the local population. For example, Sarvam AI, it will possibly be able to understand everything from the context switching way in which we do Hindi to English, understand customer communication, our shopping patterns, our festivals. Heck, it may even understand the Great Indian Nod. But that's what we're looking for Sarvam AI to figure out. But there are other important factors beyond the local cultural context, right? To begin with, the criticality. As AI models are getting more and more sophisticated, we are seeing deployments of it in more critical infrastructure like military, financial systems, the stock exchange. And there is a concern that there should not be any restrictions for countries in accessing it ever in the future, not enabling single point failures, and of course, ensuring that the sensitive deployments have their data securely deployed in the country. Which brings us to the data conversation, right? data sovereignty, and privacy control, ensuring that you're able to control the data that is running these systems, ensure that you're able to handle it securely, and more importantly, not have it being the subject matter of surveillance across different countries or by different nations is very, very important. So, for example, if I'm deploying military, my AI systems in the military, Lord knows I do not want to have that visible by any other nation. But here's the thing. I work in fintech. This is no different from when a bank wants their SaaS model, the new SaaS solution deployed on prem. It's the literally exact same thought process.
Same, but different.
Where you're saying that I want to have continued access, I do not want access to be cut off into the future, and I want to have data within my control because that's partly what RBI wants me to do. So far, we kind of understand that this seems almost logical and not different from somebody trying to create their own email server, right? But let's talk about the other aspects. If this is so obvious, what are the other aspects that possibly we should be seeing more clearly? The first one is the global consensus on the role that AI will be playing in determining our future, but the way we map it. The second, and this is the very important part, is what they perceive as this window of opportunity to play a role in crafting that future. A window which, to the mind of a lot of country nations, has not really appeared before this. We all saw how DeepSeek refused to answer the Tiananmen Square question, and that's what everybody spent most of their time doing. But if we kind of extrapolate that, we are entering into a world where every model is potentially going to have restrictions of what it answers and doesn't answer. And what that means is it's going to potentially have its own reality. And now that's what we're going to have to navigate. Let's take an example of in the future when education is done by LLM, when we are all learning by AI. The AI model, what is made available to me, is very important in determining what I learn and the context in which I learn it. For example, I would argue that the narrative that Great Britain and let's say Africa may have on colonization could vary a little bit. And I want to ensure that the children in Africa learn the impact of colonization as their local narrative. And that's where local reality starts becoming very important, which actually brings me to a similar point of, in fact, colonization. Nobody wants their future to not be approachable or accessible by themselves. And that's part of what the sovereign AI concerns are all about. They've given they've given into the fact that this was not an argument they made in the cloud service provider era, that was mainly monopolized by, let's say, service providers in the US and some in Korea. But where they see this opportunity to potentially reset and relook at how the next 20, 40, 50 years are going to look like, they are saying, let's start creating our own infrastructure. In an increasingly connected world, it's inevitable that geopolitical tensions are having real impact. Most recently, you have access to certain financial providers, shut off for certain countries if there are global wars and so on. Every country wants to make sure that once we've all committed to AI being the substrate on which we're operating, there is no disruption in our access of this, right? The way I see it, if in the 1960s, if we went to any country and said, you could spend money and create your own oil well, this is exactly what would be happening. People would start creating their own oil, generating it into own oil wells if they could. AI is giving an opportunity for creating that very important resource more widely available. Okay, so with all of this, what does the future look like? Um, I'm going to start off by saying the silent part out loud, which is the factors determining some of these activity is to dethrone American monopoly and to make sure that no entities are completely beholden to American companies. For the immediate future, that's not going to make any difference because NVIDIA stock is just going up. Stargate is completely NVIDIA run. Humane by Saudi Arabia is also going to be completely NVIDIA run. So for the immediate future, it's going to be a lot of partnerships by the US, by US companies in helping seed or set up some of this infrastructure. So to be clear, nobody's going anywhere immediately. But to the mid to long term, what you do end up seeing is uh, just the shift towards of the way that investments are made, right from infrastructure, talent, funding. There are just more places for all of these things to go land in. Because, and this comes to the product conversation, once you set up that there is no more one product fits all, that everybody wants their own version of the product, and some of it is going to be learned, some of it needs to be possibly be built from the ground up to whatever way, then that gives a lot more opportunity for what we have to build. The opportunities you have of creating the landscape actually doesn't homogenize, it really blows up. Um, and this comes to the immediate activity that we're already seeing of, right from OpenAI to NVIDIA to Anthropic. All of them are helping set up these bridges to where these countries want to go. Uh, what would be interesting, and this is my perspective, of course, is how in like 10 years, when every country has their own infra or their own AI systems, how will they be interacting with each other? Because it's going to be multiple governance systems. So, for example, already in the US, you can see federal law, like every state has its own take on what is good AI, bad AI, dangerous AI, whatever. Um, right now, you have Europe having one view, but that's about it. Now, 10 years into the future, is everybody going to be having their AI laws and having AI governance models? And how will these be interacting with each other? To go one step ahead, does that mean we all have multiple realities? I'm not suggesting that everyone tries to do like a China web version, but in as much as you have clear demarcation of this is the local data sets and this is the locally trained AI, will there be, let's say, a hierarchical model to this in the future that, let's say, for these, if you're doing anything in the legal space, then you depend on the local AIs versus if you're doing something in, let's say the creative space, then you go a little wider. Um, these are all some of the questions that are going to come up in, let's say, the 15-year mark, maybe quicker. Maybe we'll have like a United Nations of AI models and just everybody like AI chatbots talking to each other to figure out how to make things happen. Uh, but one thing is inevitable, that we will be moving from a unipolar to a multipolar world. And I think that's not only by design, but it's also the long term way in which we're going to ensure competition and competitive forces in access to AI and continued engagement with AI. That AI is infrastructure is now becoming like table stakes, but it's clear that the future of AI is going to be written by code, policy, and nation aspirations. Don't think I have any idea of how it's going to work out. I don't think I have any accurate view, but I'm really interested to see how it plans out.